I am the man you might be envious of. Or perhaps I am the man you are terrified of becoming. I am the one who, at 37 years old, decided that I was worth more than just a good family. I am the one who traded loyalty for passion, and now, at 60, I sit in an empty apartment and hold conversations with the silence. I am 60 years old. To some, that is not yet old age. In the modern world, het resegres with my park dos. They like to say that 60 is the new 40. But believe me, when you meet this age in solitude, 60 is just 60. It is the age when you stop looking forward because the horizon is narrowing and you start looking back. And there, behind me, I see only ruins. I want to tell you how I destroyed my life, not through alcohol, not through stupidity, but through arrogance, through the absolute certainty that I was the center of the universe. At 37, a man feels like a god. You are at your peak. You finally have money. You have a career. You look better than you did at 20 because you've learned how to dress and take care of yourself. The testosterone is still surging. The ambition is off the charts. It seems to you that the entire world is an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you are obligated to taste every single dish. I had a wife, let's call her Sarah. We married early, right out of college. We went through the poverty together, through the studio apartments with thin walls and cheap furniture, through the first beat-up cars that broke down in the middle of the highway. We built the foundation together. By the time I was 37, we had 2 children. My son was 8, my daughter was 5, and this is where the horror begins. I stopped seeing Sarah as a woman. I saw her as the manager of our domestic chaos. When I came home, I saw a tired human being in loungewear who talked to me about the mortgage, about our son failing his math test, about the leaking faucet that needed fixing. It suffocated me. I thought, I work like a dog. I'm building a career. I bring home the money. Why is my life at home so bland? Why is there no celebration? Where are the fireworks? I looked at Sarah and thought she had let herself go. What a lie that was. She hadn't let herself go. She had given herself away. She had poured herself into the children, into the household, into caring for me. But my eyes, clouded by ego, saw only the lack of makeup and the exhausted gaze. I was bored. It seemed to me that the daily grind was killing my genius. And then Vanessa appeared. She joined our company. She was 26, bright, bold, ambitious. She smelled of expensive perfume, not baby oatmeal. She wore high heels, not worn-out slippers. When we talked about plans, about travel, about movies, about sex. We didn't talk about utility bills or parent-teacher conferences. Vanessa looked at me like I was a hero. To her, I was an experienced, powerful man who knew exactly what he wanted. Sarah knew me in every state, weak, sick, confused. Sarah knew the truth about me, but Vanessa saw the glossy cover, and I loved being that glossy cover. It started as a classic office romance. Glances, text messages, staying late at work. I felt the blood running faster in my veins again. I felt alive. I thought, this is it. This is the life I deserve. I am still young. Why should I bury myself in diapers and homework? The chemistry was insane. The hormones hit my brain so hard I stopped thinking clearly. I would come home, look at my wife serving me dinner, and feel irritation. I was annoyed by how she ate. I was annoyed by how she spoke. I looked for flaws in her to justify my own villainy. I convinced myself that we were different people, that we had outgrown each other. I remember the evening I left. It wasn't spontaneous. I had prepared. I had rented an apartment downtown. I had bought myself new clothes. That evening, the children were already asleep. Sarah was sitting in the kitchen, checking the bills. I walked in and said, "We need to talk." I dumped everything on her. I said I wasn't happy. I said I had met someone else. I said I had fallen in love for real. I spoke in pathetic phrases from movies. I don't want to lie to you or to myself. What an idiot I was. I thought I was being honest. Noble even. Sarah didn't cry. She just turned white. She looked like a sheet of paper. She asked only one thing. "What about the kids?" I waved it off. I said, "I'll visit. I'll help. I'm not abandoning them. I'm just leaving you." I packed a bag. I wanted to leave quickly before the adrenaline wore off. Before walking out, I looked into the nursery. My daughter was sleeping, hugging a teddy bear. My son was sprawled across the bed, his blanket on the floor. I fixed his blanket. For a second, just for 1 second, something inside me tightened. Some ancient instinct screamed, "What are you doing? Stop!" But Vanessa was waiting for me in the car downstairs, and the promise of a new, bright, sexy life outweighed everything. I closed the nursery door. Then I closed the front door. I stepped over my family like I was stepping over a threshold. The first 3 years with Vanessa were like a prolonged party. We lived for ourselves. No kids, no obligations. Restaurants, clubs, spontaneous weekend trips to Europe. I lost weight. I changed my haircut. Friends said, "You look 10 years younger." I was proud of that. I felt like a winner. I looked at my peers who spent their weekends driving their families to Costco or fixing the fence, and I thought, "You poor bastards. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet." I was a weekend dad. I visited the kids every 2 weeks. I took them to the park, to the movies, bought them expensive toys. I was trying to buy my way out of guilt. I thought I was a good father. After all, I pay alimony, I give gifts, but I didn't see them grow. I missed their illnesses, their fears, their small victories. I turned into an event for them, a clown who comes in, gives candy, and leaves. I ceased to be a father. I became dad who lives somewhere else. Sarah didn't call. She never asked for help unless it concerned the children's health. She crossed me out of her personal life completely. It even pleased me at the time. I thought, great, no drama. But somewhere around 40, the euphoria began to fade. You know, passion has an expiration date, especially the kind of passion built on novelty and forbidden fruit. When Vanessa and I started living a real life, it turned out that outside of the bedroom and entertainment, we didn't have much to talk about. Vanessa was young. She wanted development. She wanted movement. And I started getting tired. I was 40, then 42. I would come home from work wanting silence. I wanted a home-cooked dinner, but Vanessa wanted to go to a new bar, to an exhibition, to see friends. The argument started. She accused me of becoming boring. "You're turning into an old man," she would scream, and that hit the sorest spot. After all, I had left my family precisely so I wouldn't be an old man. I started getting jealous. She was beautiful. Men looked at her. I started getting paranoid. I checked her phone. I made scenes if she was late. I turned into an insecure neurotic. The irony of fate caught up with me 5 years after I left my family. I was 42. Vanessa was 31. She didn't make a scene. She simply told me over breakfast, "I don't love you anymore. You pressure me. You are a heavy person. I met someone else. It was a punch to the gut. But the scariest part wasn't that she was leaving. The scariest part was the realization, I deserve this. The boomerang had returned. I left my wife because she became boring and convenient, and now I was being left because I had become boring and heavy. Vanessa packed her things faster than I had back then. She left easily, like a butterfly fluttering away, and I was left in a rented designer apartment, surrounded by expensive furniture and absolute emptiness. And that was when, at 42, my real reckoning began. I was alone. I tried to go back. Not immediately, of course. First, I drank. Then 6 months later, I worked up the courage and called Sarah. I thought, maybe, maybe she was still waiting. We have children. We have a past. She agreed to meet in a cafe. I came with flowers. I looked pathetic, I know. I started talking about how I made a mistake, how I was led astray, how I realized everything. I was ready to crawl on my knees. Sarah sat opposite me drinking tea. She looked different. She had a new haircut, a different style of clothing. She looked calm and somehow whole. When I finished my monologue, she put down her cup and said, David, I don't hold a grudge against you. Not anymore. But I don't want you back. Why? I asked. For the sake of the kids. She smiled sadly. The kids are used to living without you, and I'm used to it. I learned to cope on my own. You were right back then, 5 years ago. We became different people. You chose your path. You can't just hit the undo button when things get bad where you went. That was scarier than if she had screamed. She didn't need me. I had become a superfluous element to her. Years passed. Now I am 60. I never remarried. There were women, of course, short romances, attempts to find warmth, but it was never the same. No one else knew the real me. All these new women saw an already established man, a director, a sugar daddy. None of them knew how I was afraid of the dark as a child. None of them remembered how we glued wallpaper in our first apartment. I no longer had a witness to my life. The biggest tragedy is my children. My son is now 31. My daughter is 28. They are polite people. They wish me a happy birthday. Sometimes we have lunch together, but between us stands a wall of armored glass. To them, I am not a father. I am a relative who paid alimony. We have no shared memories from that critically important period when they were turning from children into teenagers and from teenagers into adults. I didn't teach my son to shave. I didn't talk to him about his first love. I didn't comfort my daughter when her boyfriend dumped her. Sarah did that, or she did it alone, or recently I learned that Sarah has a man. For a long time now, they live together at the country house. My son calls him Uncle Robert, but treats him with more warmth than he treats me. They go fishing together. My son goes fishing with another man. And I sit in my office and look at their photos on social media. I see my ex-wife in the photos. She is 59. She is aged, of course, but she has happy eyes. She is holding a grandchild. My grandchild. I have seen my grandson only a couple of times. He cries when I pick him up. To him, I am a strange old man. Grandpa with a gift, who comes, sits for half an hour and leaves. At 37, I thought family was shackles. I thought children prevented me from living a full life. I thought my wife was dragging me to the bottom. What a fool I was. Family is not shackles. It is an anchor. It is the only thing that holds you when the storm begins. And the storm begins for everyone, sooner or later. I cut my anchor loose and sailed into the open sea chasing a beautiful siren. The siren swam away. and I was left drifting in a leaking boat in the middle of the ocean. Now, at 60, I understand a simple truth that I didn't understand at 37. Love is not butterflies in your stomach. Butterflies live for one day. Love is when someone brings you tea when you are sick. Love is when you are tolerated, when you are unbearable. Love is a history written by two handwritings in one notebook. I burned my notebook, and now I have nowhere to write. Do you know what the scariest thing in my apartment is? Not the silence, it's the mirrors. I walk past a mirror, and I see an old man. I have nice clothes and expensive watch, but in my eyes there is the longing of a beaten dog. I often imagine what would have happened if I hadn't left that Tuesday. Right now, Sarah and I would be sitting on the sofa. Maybe we wouldn't even be talking, just watching TV. My son would drop by after work just because, without calling. My daughter would bring the grandson for the weekend. The house would be filled with voices, the smell of food, with life. I traded that for 5 years of passion and 20 years of loneliness. A hell of a bad deal, to be honest. I am telling you this because I know. Among you, there are men who are currently 35, 37, 40. You might be having a crisis right now. It seems to you that your wife doesn't understand you, that the domestic life has eaten you alive, that you deserve more. You look at the young girls in the office and think, I've still got it. Listen to me. Listen carefully to a man who has already walked this path to the end. What you call routine, that is actual happiness. It's just quiet. It doesn't scream about itself. What you call tired of marriage, that is just a stage. It is the price for depth. You cannot dive deep without feeling the pressure. If you leave your children now while they are small, you will never, do you hear me, never be able to fix it. You cannot buy their love with gifts. You will become a passerby to them. And when you get old, they will bring you a glass of water, but they will do it out of politeness, not out of love. And that is the bitterest water on earth. Do not break what you have built for years for the sake of a pretty picture. The picture will fade. Beauty will wither. Passion will leave. And you will remain alone. Cherish your wives, the ones who saw you without a mask, the ones who washed your socks and tolerated your failures. Go to them today. Hug them. Say thank you, because one day you might wake up in a luxurious apartment in total silence and realize that you are the poorest man on earth. Don't be me. Be smarter. That's all I have.